You can't tell me. I mean, I understand there's goals and you aim for the top, but coming into the year, I mean, was that consciously a goal? Like, let's go win these races?
Well, I don't know if I'm honest. I thought that she should be top three. I thought we were trying to get her on the podium. That was a big goal. And in Portugal at the test event, it was clear that she was in that position. But when we saw her riding and building that confidence at Poland, I thought, oh, here we go. She's she's looking really good here. So it's just momentum, isn't it, and confidence, and it when that starts to pick up, and she's got belief in herself and the bike and the team. There's a lot of people around her, and she's not necessarily the girl that leans into that sort of stuff. So you get a comfortable Gracie and a happy Gracie, and you've got a very dangerous Gracie.
No, clearly that she was dangerous down the bottom, that's for sure. But also, you could argue there's some weaknesses on these last two tracks, but you just rode straight around them with sheer talent, determination, and I didn't mean in disrespect for like aiming to win. Like, of course, you want to win races, and that's why every athlete's there. But I think, like you say, there's building blocks of like, okay, last year got her on the podium, cool. She had some races where she could have done well, but she didn't. So she's got lots to learn. She's so young, and as we know,
Yeah,
there's maybe physically she needs to develop maybe on the pedaling and carrying speed. She's one of the lighter ladies out there. So, when she went and did that at Ludenville, I was like, wow, that must have almost come as a surprise, maybe so early in the year. Maybe you would have thought you'd see podiums first and then a second and be like, okay, Gracie, you have to convince her, let's go do this. But she's there all smiles in the leader's jersey. I just love how carefree she is. What's she like, and what was it like going up for finals, considering she was the only Norco racer, in the elite field. The men's have not had the season they want just yet. Let's put it bluntly.
for sure. Yeah, I think starting with the first question about how she was going up in finals, it was she was more nervous because I think she felt an expectation because she knew her pace. We'd seen in Q1 the first qualifying session that well, actually, to be honest, we saw it in the first practice. The first practice session of Leogang, the track is sort of a tale of two halves. So the top half of the track, I guess you can split it into thirds, but the top half's very open. You've got the motorway section that they modified. I don't think they did a great job of modifying it. They took out some tabletops and put in some sort of pump track rollers. And then it came into the woods on, it used to be ruts, and this time it was just bike park, sort of almost asphalt, and you come into the woods and then things start getting chunky and technical and steppy. And I just had a smile on my face all through that Q1, all through that first practice. And I rolled back to the pits and I said to Gracie, I said, honestly, I've been doing this a while, and that takes me back to Rachel Atherton days. The level at which she was at compared to the pace of the others. And this is no disrespect to the other girls because they had their pace on other parts of the track, but to go, being trackside with Rachel and helping her all those years, she just had this sort of flow about her and this rhythm and this speed. And I started to actually do some comparisons with some of the junior men to sort of show her, look, you're right on here. So we could see that the pace was there. And then in Q2, in the finals, she had some work to do at the top. That was the big thing. She knew that top half, we needed to get her to the woods within a couple of seconds of the leader, and then she'd do what she does. And we'd worked really hard to work out where she was maybe losing a bit of time and where to focus. So going up in the lift, she was kind of confident but nervous. And I saw just before she dropped in, it was only like 4 minutes to go. She wanted to sort of punch my hands and she didn't feel great. And I was like, look, don't worry about that. Just get on your bike, have a little pedal around, get yourself back into it, because I could see she was getting a bit anxious. And fortunately, as soon as she got on her bike, she sort of locked in, rolled up to the start gate, and we were like, right, she'll just go and do her thing now. And like you see from the GoPros and the footage, it was absolutely phenomenal.
No, it totally was, and that wood section, just seeing her, just like you say, hop and backside, very light, very looks like Jackson a little bit as
Yeah.
well, and got that Canadian flair. And then just before that Red Bull step down coming to the woods, I mean, did you notice that, like, that commitment and pull she did out of one of, like, the last turn? She almost like tripled out. It was just
Oh,
visually different to what the other ladies were able to do. And obviously, Anna was close. Like you say, they've got strengths in other ways. Valley coming back to form. So we've got lots to unpack. But she's just
yeah.
riding on this, like, it just seems like air of confidence, momentum.
Funny you should pick up on that corner before that Red Bull jump, because I actually felt as though she should be on a different line, and we were talking about the pros and cons and the importance, if she was on that line, to really try and get a backside on the way out to sort of boost you out. And because of kind of how the practice had worked and where we were at, it wasn't really worth trying to change. Do you see what I mean? It was one of these lines. The track, as you know, develops, and it was only after Q2, so the day before, did a couple of lines come out in the woods, and we weren't really worried so much about them because we knew that Gracey's time would be taken. She needed to get to those woods, so we worked a lot harder on the top half of the track. And really, it was dealer's choice for a couple of those things. And I said, look, what do you want to do? Do you want to move lines, or are you happy where you are? Because I think this inside line's a bit quicker and it's less bumpy. But she was like, no, I'll just hit that as hard as I can, and carry my speed out. And obviously that's what she did. So her execution was fantastic.
No, it was to win races clearly at this level. You have to execute, and that's awesome to hear the insight into your guys' strategy of a race run. You might just tune in and think, okay, Gracie's going to do well in the woods, but you guys really strategized that race. You were aware of some glaring weaknesses on track, and that's how you do win these races.